All right. Anyway, hi everybody, welcome. For those of you who don't come here very often, my talks are based on George Burns' theory of a good Sunday talk. You have a really good beginning, have a really good ending, and they should be as close together as possible. So relax, I'll be quick. Today my topic is bless and release. It is not catch and release. One of my friends said, oh, I didn't know you fished. I said, no, it's not catch, it's bless and release. It's about letting go with love, compassion, and grace. That sounds like something we all need. Letting go with love, compassion, and grace. We all get attached to people and our feelings and things. And letting go of some people, some things, and some feelings can be very difficult. I'm going to share with you a recent challenge I had of letting go of a thing. Okay, I'm going to hold this up. Does anybody know what this is? This is an Electrolux vacuum. This vacuum cleaner was built, and I bought it in 1989. It's the Electrolux Marquee canister. This baby is supposed to last a lifetime. You got it. 1989, Beck and I bought this baby. I had it in mind that it would last a lifetime. My mother bought an Electrolux when I was in 6th grade. My mother died at 92. Guess what? It still worked. So I had it in my mind that I would never have to let go of this Marquee canister vacuum. Well, as you know where I'm going with this. So last year, I made it stopped. It stopped working. I couldn't get it to go. So I called one serviceman, and I said, I have an Electrolux. I'd like to bring it in to get repaired. He said, oh, ma'am, we don't repair those. We don't even have parts for them anymore. And I'm like, oh, surely he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I called the second repairman. Hello, I've got the Marquee canister, 1989. Ma'am, how long have you had that? I'm like, 29 years? It's like, ma'am, he must have been part of our fellowship. He said, ma'am, you need to let it go and replace it with a newer, better vacuum. Well, I got over the shock that I wasn't going to have my canister for a lifetime. Rebecca and I, true story, we went out and bought a newer, better vacuum. This baby is fabulous. It's the Dyson Ball Animal Bagless Upright. We have 2 cats and they both shed. This baby is fabulous. Bagless, I love it. So now I'm in love with the new, better vacuum. And then I came up with this topic, bless and release, and it occurred to me, oh my gosh, this story relates to bless and release. What is blessing and release about? Well, blessing and release is about letting things go so something better can come in. That's really my talk. But I have a few more sentences. But letting things go so something better can come in. It's the theory of God, Spirit, universe. Let it go. If you're holding like this, and no room to pick anything else up, you have to let it go. Now, the affirmation, bless and release is an affirmation. Get up in the morning, if you've got something hurting, bless and release it. If somebody cuts you off in traffic, bless and release it. If you're having problems with family members, bless and release it. It is my favorite affirmation. Anybody who knows me will know I'll say it almost once a day. It comes, this famous, I attribute this affirmation to a famous spiritual teacher, and you can guess who it is, who survived an abusive childhood, dropped out of high school without a diploma, became pregnant, on her 16th birthday, gave up her newborn baby child for adoption, went on to work many menial jobs, then went on to become a famous model working for Ole Casino. Oh, how do you say his name? Whatever. She survived the devastating loss of her husband, who left her for another woman, and she beat cancer. And that would be Louise Hay. Louise Hay, and I've always been a Louise Hay fan since my dear friend, my guru buddy, Darren, bought me this book, and it was printed in '82. It's Louise Hay's first book that kind of made her famous. Louise Hay studied religious science in New York City and became a religious science practitioner, and then went on to become a very famous spiritual leader. This book, my friend Darren, I met Darren in the 90s, he would go to every used bookstore and he would see this, and he would buy this, and he would give this book to every friend he had. So if anybody wants this book, I'm glad to give it to you because I got about 6 of them at home. So I love Louise Hay. She just had a way with her words. And today, I mean, I've got her CDs, I've got her books, and now I listen to her podcasts. And she just gets it across, you know, people, our baggage, the outdated canister, the outdated feelings. If we let them go, there'll be something better. But she adds the part of blessing. When we have to bless things as we let them go. For many of us, blessing some things, some people, requires a lot of mental work, mental gymnastics. Wayne Dyer, in his book, The Power of Intention, writes that we must be willing to do somersaults in our minds, to land on our feet, to accept this power. Somersaults in our mind. Now, as a kid, I was pretty coordinated, but I could never do a somersault. Today, as an adult, I can do a somersault in my mind. I can flip a 180-degree turn in my mind, and I can bless, well, I'm working on blessing and releasing things that no longer serve my good. In letting go, it is important to know the spiritual law that whatever we send out comes back. It's a boomerang. Some people call it the law of cause and effect. Some people call it karma. But when we send things off, it's to our advantage to send them off with compassion and love. The reason being, the universe knows. God knows. So here are some things we might remember to successfully bless and release. Know that what you do not let go follows you. Everybody's going, yeah, that's a true one. Yeah. What we do not let go follows us. Poor feelings, lack of self-esteem, inability to deal with conflict, inability to face some of our own demons, they follow us. So we have to find a way to let them go. I learned that lesson the hard way. As you all know, I'm from Ohio. Give it up for Ohio. And when I graduated, yeah, I've got some Ohioans here. Oh, yes. When I graduated from college, in a span of 6 years, I moved and kept getting different jobs. I moved to San Diego, California, Baltimore, Maryland, Atlanta, Georgia, Dallas, Texas, back to Atlanta. I did all this in 6 years. Different jobs, jobs I didn't like. I was lonely, I was unhappy, and I was certainly not living my authentic life. In my 20s, I had it in my head that my problems, such as loneliness and poor health, financial instability, no relationships, unfulfilling jobs, I had it in my head that they were related to the city in which I lived in. No. In the late 20s, I certainly discovered this teaching. I discovered Rebecca, who I've been with 45 years, and I realized that my happiness had nothing to do with the physical location. It had to do with me working on my spirituality, and that's when I got involved in this teaching. I learned that you can't get away from yourself by moving from one place to another, because what we do not let go follows us. Another thing about successfully blessing and releasing, here's one we're all going to love. I keep saying this. We cannot control others. I find that as a shock even today. Here it is. We can only control ourselves. It's true that some people have a greater need for control, making them what some would call a control freak. Perhaps these control seekers grew up in a chaotic environment. Maybe as children their parents were not able to provide a nurturing environment. They didn't have the tools. Maybe these people grew up with some anxiety or lack of self-esteem. And they find, people such as that might find trying to control others allays their own anxiety. makes them feel better. I can relate. Applying the bless and release affirmation helps us when we need to let go of controlling others and when others try to control us. Bless and release. He's trying to control us. Please don't let this out of the room, but I do live in a condominium, and sometimes there are people who wish to control us. And so we spend a lot of time, Rebecca and I, let's just bless and release them and move on, sit in the garden and relax. Because you're wondering, why are they trying to control us over this little bitty thing? Cannot plant the zinnia there, whatever. So back to my talk. Rumi, a Persian poet in 1200 AD, wrote, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself." I like that one. So as we practice blessing and releasing, it's helpful also to remember, here's another good one, judging others, and what effect judging others has on us. In his book that we did a study group on 2 years ago, Mimi and I, The 7 Spiritual Habits of Success, and we have a couple copies of these too, so if you want this book, take it too. Because, we have a library over there with all these books as well. They're available for borrowing or carrying with you through your life. So in his book, The 7 Spiritual Habits of Success, Deepak Chopra, and I want Deepak to marry Oprah, so it would be Oprah Chopra. I mean, I've been pushing that. Oprah Chopra, what a deal. Anyway, judgment, according to him, he says, judgment is a constant evaluation of things as right or wrong, good or bad. Okay, constantly evaluating, that's right, that's wrong, that's good, that's bad. And when you are constantly evaluating, clarifying, labeling, analyzing, you create a turbulence in your own mind. And this turbulence running around constricts our energy. So it goes back again to let it in, let it go, let it in. So we do not want to constrict our energy with the universe, with the spirit, with God. Chopra recommends that we shed the burden of judgment. He says, in judging others, we reflect the lack of self-confidence. I'll read that again. In judging others, we reflect the lack of self-confidence. That's a heavy one. Maybe that would be a talk another day. It is I thought that was interesting. There is a prayer in the Course of Miracles that states, "Today I shall judge nothing that occurs." Wake up in the morning and say the affirmation, "Today I shall judge nothing that occurs." Now, that would be very hard for me, especially when I watch the news.
Yes.
But it'd be a nice thing to work on. I get it in my head. Now, I want to share with you a story of 2 monks and a wealthy woman. This is the olden days, so think of this woman. She has a lot of money, and she's got handlers, roadies, whatever you want to call them, that are with her, and she's got packages, and she's in this silk robe, and she wants to cross, she's in India, she wants to get across this stream. And the rain have made the stream very deep, and she can't get across without getting her silken robes. And so she's kind of nasty, and she's saying to her handlers, "Get me across, carry me, how am I going to get across?" And the handlers are like, "Well, we got to carry all these bags that you bought at the market." And so she stood there, and she was impatient. 2 monks came by, an older monk and a younger monk. The younger monk noticed the woman. He said nothing. He walked by. The older monk, he just quickly picked up the woman, put her on his back, transferred her across the water, put her down on the other side. He went on his way. The woman did not thank him. She just shoved him out of the way. So the 2 monks then went on their path. The young monk was brooding and was preoccupied, and after several hours, because they don't talk a lot, after several hours, the monk says, "That woman back there was very selfish. She was rude. She did not even thank you." The older monk said, "Brother, I set the woman down hours ago. I set her down hours ago on the other side of the street. Why are you still carrying her? I like that. So in closing, this simple Zen story, I think, has a beautiful message of blessing and releasing. We ask ourselves, how often are we carrying something? And when we carry it, it doesn't help us. It doesn't help our energy. It doesn't help our flow. So in closing, I ask you, what are you still carrying? And so it is.